Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is Cthulhu Saves Christmas for the Nintendo Switch, developed by Zeboyd Games and released for multiple platforms starting back in 2019. I'm playing this one from a cartridge on a Nintendo Switch that I bought a year or so back from Limited Run Games. I feel like this game sort of proves what's great and what's bad about Limited Run Games releases. First, you get to buy a hard copy of a game that you otherwise won't be able to find a hard copy of. That's great if you're a fan. The problem is that if you don't know if you're a fan, you need to jump in on these game releases when they first become available, or you have to pay aftermarket prices, which generally will at least double. Now, I've purchased a ton of games from Limited Run Games, but there are a few that I find myself regretting, mostly because the prices don't scale with the game type. A new Switch game from Limited Run Games will run about $35, plus $5 or $6 for shipping, so we're talking just over $40 for a cartridge, which would sound good for a Nintendo Switch game, and I think most of the time it is. Some games, though, especially these indie developer games, might not actually be of a good value. This game is available on many other online platforms, and only for a few dollars. Right now, I believe it's on sale for $3. $3 for this game, I wouldn't care so much, but I paid over $40, so I'm willing to criticize this one. This is a prequel to the game Cthulhu Saves the World, which, based on what I experienced with this game, I doubt I'll ever take a look at. Cthulhu is an evil cosmic god created from the horror writings of H.P. Lovecraft. I'm a total fan of that writer's stories, so this one started out interesting. This seemed to be my type of thing. This particular game is comedic. It's a comedy-style game in the style of Final Fantasy from the Super Nintendo. It looks like it would fit in with that generation pretty well. We get pixel cartoony graphics and supposedly a role-playing experience. The basics for the story goes like this. Cthulhu wakes up and he's received a Christmas present that says it's from Santa. When he opens it, this magical mist appears and it strips him of all his powers. It of course was not sent by Santa, some evil league that has kidnapped Santa. Being Cthulhu, you set off on a mission to get revenge and get your powers back. Along the way, you basically learn the power of friendship and Christmas. Yeah, I just said that out loud. I also played this game to the end, and it takes under 5 hours. Now this game, overall, it's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek, it's supposed to be humorous. Sometimes Cthulhu talks to the narrator, and generally, when he talks to other characters, he's a little smarmy, quick with his wit. His goal is to get his powers back and destroy the universe, of course. And I suppose, to make that acceptable, we go in the comedic direction. I don't know, I guess that works in the context. But truthfully here, I don't think I'm the proper target audience for this game. It's certainly not a horror game, and although it's considered a role-playing game, I don't think there's any role-playing that's happening here. This one is as straightforward as it gets. You defeat enemies and level up. Between levels, you kill time. You do this by doing these Christmas events that get you gear. You basically have 3 other party members, and they're always the same. You only have 3, and it's always going to be the exact same 3. In these middle levels, you go to see a movie with one of the characters, and at the end, that person gets an item. Or maybe you help at a soup kitchen, and you get another item. And it tells you what you get in advance, so it's not like it's even an experiment. You can find items throughout the game too, but they're just sitting around in chests that you pick up. There's really no randomness to this game. It doesn't feel like there's any randomness at all. It's a really dumbed down experience. I guess you're just kind of playing this one to experience the story, but that's a terrible thing if you don't like the story. I got so bored with this game, I started to fly through the text. This brings me to a particular type of game that I dislike. There's an audience out there for what are considered to be visual novels. My understanding is they're pretty popular in Japan. Basically, they tell a story in a video game. You'll see characters on screen. There'll be like a headshot of them. And they'll barely be animated. Maybe they'll blink. And they speak, and it's all text. And you read the text. When you're done reading, you press a button and you forward the conversation. Sometimes it goes back and forth between characters this way. You just keep pressing a button. Keep moving the story forward. And as it turns out, I hate this type of function. I've never found a game in this style that I didn't think was just wasting my time trying to force an uninteresting story down my throat. It always succeeds in taking me out of this adventure and reminding me that there's nothing more than a linear experience below the surface that I can't control. I find it very boring. So, I forward through all the text in this one because it's so dull. Maybe a younger audience would appreciate it, but I'm not sure if that's the case, because they wouldn't understand any of these literary references, all these little things that are having to do with the Cthulhu mythos, so I'm not sure who the audience should be. Now, besides this, as far as gameplay goes, well, it's a third-party game, and in a third-party environment, you occasionally might have to deal with some weird problems with the programming. Like when I got myself stuck on screen within the first 4 minutes of the game. Check this out! All I do is I walk back onto one screen from the lower part of a path on another screen and I get completely stuck. I've reloaded this game and I've tried it 3 times. It's definitely a thing in this one spot. Now, okay, this is one spot and it is a frustration for me. And it's the only spot I found in the entire game where you get stuck, so I guess it's not like it's broken all over. But this doesn't make me feel good if one of the first screens I'm on, I manage to get my character stuck in place. Very strange. The levels in this game are orchestrated in a way where you get a map, and all you have to do is wander through the map. That's it. There's a beginning and an end. You just gotta figure out where the end is. You're gonna wander around and occasionally get into a monster fight. The thing I don't like about this is that at the bottom right of the screen, there's a number that tells you how many random encounters you're going to experience before they stop occurring in the level. It's usually 10 or 15. It also has a meter that changes color to red that lets you know, here's the encounter. So you know exactly how many encounters you need to have, and you know exactly when they're going to happen. What fun is that? That's so boring. You can actually fast forward through them, like you can press a button and you can skip the encounter. I don't know why they would let you do that either. That makes no sense to me. If you were in Final Fantasy and you could skip all these fights, it just seems bizarre to me. So in this one, basically, you wander through a maze looking for the exit, and you're going to get these random encounters, usually 10 or 15. And then at that stage, if you've done all the encounters, you'll be strong enough to beat the boss at the end of the level. There's not a lot of room to play the game you want to play it if this is the parameter you're working under. The fighting in this game, it's very boring. Now I play these games on normal. I pop them in and I usually say start. That lets me know that this is how they planned the game to play. This game on normal is shockingly easy. You have all the parts that you would expect of a game like this. You have offensive powers that can hit multiple targets. You have offensive powers that are designed for single targets. You have buffs, debuffs, solo healing, group healing, and you also have differences in the flavor of some of these attacks. Some are fire, some are darkness, some are ice or wind. None of that really seems to matter. Here's how I beat the game. When a battle starts, first character, you scroll through characters 1, 2, 3, 4. I do an area attack, move to the next character. I do another area attack, I move to the next character. That character doesn't have an area attack, so I attack the weakest with a solo attack. Then the fourth character, another area attack. At this point, I've most likely killed the enemies. If any manage to survive, I just do a solo attack and kill the weakest enemy first. That's it. Each character has 8 attack power slots. There are a few you can customize the order, and some are automatically left as random slots. Basically, you have more powers than are available on the list, so they randomize them and they stick them in there as the fight starts. Honestly, I care about nothing past whether or not the power is an area or a single enemy power. That's it. Also, when you use one of the 8 powers, you can't use it again in battle, unless you go to the last option, which will regenerate your abilities. I was completely oblivious to the fact that you could regenerate your abilities until near the very end of the game. I'm talking 4 to 5 hours into this game before I realized this is how you reset powers. I was just using offense, and then when a character ran out of offense, I would randomly choose something just to get the icon back to Cthulhu, because Cthulhu has one solo offensive power that just doesn't need to regenerate. So all those other powers that I was just using at random, didn't care who I was healing, didn't care about any of that stuff because it wasn't even needed. It was just me trying to fast forward through a character. I defeated 90% of the game this way. All of those powers were useless. And in this game, honestly, I never once lost a character in the game. No one ever died. Never. In addition to that, until the last few fights of the game, we're talking the final boss fights, the last probably 3 or 4 fights, I never had to actually pay attention to the health level of any character. There was never any danger. The only reason I used any healing spells for the first 4 hours because I was just fast-forwarding through a character and it happened to be the one that I selected. There are higher difficulty settings, of course, and there's a new plus game after you beat it. But, like I said, I chose the default. I'm expecting a default game to have some sort of a challenge to it. Here, there doesn't seem to be any challenge at all. Getting through the game, I have no interest in trying this one again on a different difficulty. It would only be the exact same experience again, possibly a little more difficult, maybe? Now, there aren't a ton of maps on this one either. I think maybe there were 5, maybe 6 levels in total. The artwork is nice enough, and the pixel art's great, and besides the place I got stuck, the game works fine. But I've beaten the game. If you beat this game, and I've beaten this game, we've basically had the exact same experience, at least where it counts. The exact same story. This one is just really low on variety here, and like I said, I hate visual novels, and the characters I hate too, now that I think about it. It's just, the gameplay between the visual novel part just isn't interesting enough to keep me going. There's also this meter that runs along the right side of the screen, top to bottom. They describe it in the tutorial level. It seems like it's going to be an important thing. It shows you the order with which people are going to be attacking, so you can charge up your abilities or what have you. After the tutorial level, I completely ignored it for the rest of the game. It meant nothing. How important is that meter if it can totally be ignored? It's just wasting screen real estate. Now, the game looks great, and I appreciate the style and the dedication to these little bits of the Cthulhu mythos being integrated into the dialogue and the details, but the gameplay on this one is just lacking for me. It's really kind of dull. Now, if I paid $3 to $5 for this one online, I would say that's what I would expect from a game like that. But me? I bought a Switch cartridge for over $40, and now it's just taking up room on a shelf. Oh well, this one just didn't really work for me. Well, that's all I have today for Cthulhu Saves Christmas. Thanks for stopping by to take a look at this one, and I'll catch you on another video.